Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a time where everyone wants shortcuts, tricks, hacks, formulas. But when it comes to connection, especially with women, the secret isn't in saying the right line. It's in becoming the kind of man who doesn't need one. Let me be clear. The only thing that makes women not just notice you, but pursue you isn't physical. It's not money. It's not mystery. It's something far deeper. It's emotional sovereignty. A man who is emotionally sovereign, who knows who he is, what he stands for, and doesn't collapse at the first sign of discomfort, that man is rare, and rarity is attractive. When you walk into a room grounded in your own skin, you're not asking to be liked. You're inviting the world to know you. That's a different frequency. Women don't chase a man because he's impressive. They chase a man because he makes them feel something. Curiosity, safety, depth, challenge, warmth. They chase a man who is fully alive because being near him wakes something alive in them. So the real question is, do you know how to live in your own aliveness? Too many men perform. They try to be what they think a woman wants, but performance creates pressure, and pressure kills desire. What's different is presence. Not the kind of presence that dominates a room, but the one that holds space. The presence that listens without interrupting, that makes eye contact without expectation, that knows how to sit in silence without making it awkward. Because that silence, that's where the real intimacy begins. And intimacy, not perfection, is what keeps women coming back. When you are emotionally honest, when you express desire without demand, when you let her choose you instead of convincing her, she will feel free. And when a woman feels free and wanted, she runs toward you. You see, the chase doesn't begin when you play hard to get. It begins when you are hard to forget. So what's the one thing? Be the author of your own life. It sounds poetic, maybe even a little abstract, but it's the most radical and intimate act of self-possession a man can undertake. To be the author of your life means you no longer live in reaction. You no longer move like a puppet, adjusting your strings to match what others expect or fear or desire of you. You live in intention, not impulse. And this, more than charm or status or success, is what draws others to you, especially women who are attuned to emotional resonance over performance. When a man walks into a room, she doesn't just look at how he dresses or how he speaks. She pays attention to how he occupies himself. Not the room, not the attention, but himself. Is he rooted? Does he know who he is when no one is watching? A man who is the author of his life doesn't need approval to validate his choices. He doesn't adjust his personality to match the context like a chameleon. He holds the pen to his story and writes in bold lines even when he's uncertain. That kind of presence doesn't just attract, it disarms. Women can sense the difference between a man who is performing masculinity and one who has embodied it. One is fragile and reactive, dependent on applause or affection to maintain his posture. The other is still, grounded, alive from within. He doesn't chase the spotlight because he's not trying to escape his shadow. He's not perfect, but he's responsible for who he is. And that responsibility is magnetic, not because it makes him dominant, but because it makes him safe. And desire thrives where there is safety. When you are the author of your own life, you become fluent in your emotional world. You don't run from discomfort, you don't numb your fears, and you don't outsource your self-worth. You are able to look at your wounds without turning them into weapons. You are able to say, I was wrong, without crumbling. You can express love without needing to control the outcome. This level of maturity is rare, and in its rarity, it is captivating. Irony is, when a man lives in this way, with inner authorship, he stops needing to chase. He stops needing to convince. He knows his value not from arrogance, but from integration. He has done the quiet, hard work of sitting with himself long enough to make peace with who he is. And women sense that. They sense the absence of desperation, the absence of games. And in that space, desire grows because she feels she can finally exhale around him. There is something profoundly attractive about a man who doesn't flinch at his own emotional truth. He doesn't posture to appear stronger, nor does he withhold in order to maintain power. He knows his worth is not in how many women want him, but in how deeply he wants to be known by the right one. He moves not to conquer but to connect, not to be adored but to be understood. That doesn't mean he lacks edge. It means his edge is real, not curated. To author your own life also means you stop living through other people's scripts. The ones that told you to be strong, silent, unavailable. The ones that made you believe that needing nothing makes you more desirable. The truth is, neediness and need are not the same. A man who knows his needs and can hold them without demanding someone else fulfill them is irresistible. He is emotionally available without being emotionally dependent. He is open without being porous. Women chase a man who isn't chasing himself. They want to be near someone who is already home in his own skin. They don't want to decode silence or navigate manipulation. They want someone who can say what he means, feel what he feels, and remain steady even when things get messy. That steadiness doesn't come from control. It comes from authorship, from a deep knowing that your life is yours to shape, not anyone else's to edit. And here's the truth many men don't realize. Women don't fall in love with your accomplishments. They fall in love with your capacity for self-awareness, your emotional literacy, your ability to sit in the fire of truth and not run. When you stop trying to prove yourself and instead start living from your values, your story becomes powerful without being loud. You become the kind of man whose silence speaks volumes, whose presence calms storms, whose vulnerability becomes strength. Being the author of your own life is not about perfection, it's about alignment. It's about waking up each day and choosing, not reacting, choosing your words, choosing your boundaries, choosing your energy, not to please others or win approval, but to live in a way that feels honest to your soul. That level of choice is what builds confidence. Not the fake, performative kind, but the quiet, steady kind that stays even when the lights go out. And the man who lives like this doesn't need to be chased. He becomes the one who is remembered, not because he demanded attention, but because he lived in such alignment with himself that others couldn't help but be drawn to the clarity of his presence. Make her feel, not just see. That's the unspoken language of connection, the bridge between physical attraction and emotional impact. In a world where appearance is constantly curated, filtered, photos, charming texts, polished presentations, very few people dare to go deeper. But when you stop performing and start evoking, you change everything. You stop being scenery in her day and become a moment she can't forget. Most men think attraction is about being impressive. They chase the image, status, fitness, money, mystery, believing that if she sees how successful or attractive they are, desire will follow. But women don't fall in love with images, they fall in love with how you make them feel. She might notice your presence, but she remembers your energy. She remembers how your silence wasn't awkward, how your attention didn't drift, how your words didn't just describe but awaken something real in her. Emotional connection is not about intensity, it's about attunement. When a woman feels that you are tuned in to her tone, to the space between her words, to the feelings behind her laughter, something inside her relaxes. She doesn't need to explain herself. She doesn't need to entertain you. She feels seen not as a performance, but as a person. And when that happens, walls begin to fall, not because she's been persuaded, but because she feels understood. A lot of men operate from performance. They try to make her laugh, make her impressed, make her want more. But the ones who leave a lasting imprint don't make her feel anything. On purpose, they make her feel something because they are present. Their attention is not scattered. Their compliments are not generic. Their curiosity is not calculated. She feels that she's not being handled, she's being met. Women can see through performance quickly. They've seen the clever lines, the self-aggrandizing stories, the overly confident posture that's actually hiding a fragile ego. But what breaks through all that noise is presence. Real, honest, quiet presence. When she senses that you're not here to win her, but to meet her, she leans in. Because most men don't offer that. Most men are too busy trying to be chosen to realize that connection isn't about proving your worth. It's about showing your truth. To make her feel, you must first know how to feel yourself. If you've spent your life avoiding vulnerability, numbing emotion, or equating stillness with weakness, you won't know how to hold space for her complexity. You'll get uncomfortable when she opens up. You'll flinch when things get tender. You'll joke when things get real. And that's when she'll retreat. Not because you didn't look the part, but because she didn't feel safe to bring her full self. Safety doesn't mean being passive. It means being steady. It means holding emotional ground. It means not reacting with defensiveness when she disagrees. It means staying curious when she feels overwhelmed. It means knowing how to say, I hear you, instead of trying to fix or dismiss what she feels. That level of listening makes her feel cherished, not just complimented. And the moment she feels cherished, attraction deepens. It becomes rooted. You don't have to be emotionally perfect to create this. You just have to be emotionally available. When she tells you about her childhood or her fears or the thing that keeps her up at night, don't analyze her, don't minimize it. Don't pivot the conversation back to yourself. Stay with her. Let the silence speak. Let her know with your presence that she doesn't have to entertain you to be worthy of your attention. She doesn't have to shine all the time to be seen. Many men mistake emotional openness for weakness. But the truth is, being emotionally available is not about spilling your trauma. It's about being transparent in a way that shows courage. Saying, that makes me uncomfortable, but I want to understand. Saying, I felt something like that too. Saying, I'm still figuring that part of myself out. These are small, subtle statements, but they carry a deep emotional signature. And that's what creates intimacy, not just sex, but closeness. When you make her feel, you give her something she can't buy, fake, or forget. You give her the experience of being fully engaged, emotionally, mentally, even spiritually. You give her the experience of being mirrored, not managed, encouraged, not controlled. And the way she responds to that is not always logical. She might think about you hours later, not because of your words, but because of how she felt in your presence. Light, alive, calm, electric. Making her feel isn't about being soft or passive. It's about being emotionally fluent. It's about knowing when to lean in and when to give space. It's about knowing the difference between saying something to impress her and saying something to connect. It's about listening in a way that makes her nervous system exhale. Because when she exhales, when she relaxes around you, she's not just seeing your face, she's feeling your essence. And that is what she remembers. To make her feel is to speak in a language that doesn't use words. It's the way your eyes hold hers a second longer, the way your voice steadies when she's unsure, the way you ask about what lights her up, not just what she does, the way you aren't afraid to let things be quiet, real, even messy. because in that messiness there is life. And life is what she wants to feel with you, not just look at. Desire without dependency is the most intoxicating form of attraction. It is the moment when someone wants you, not because they need you to fill a void, but because their desire is a choice, not a necessity. It's the difference between being pursued from fullness versus being chased from emptiness. Most people confuse the two. They think longing means love and attention means connection. But when you desire someone from a place of self-completion, what you offer is not hunger, it's energy. Dependency often masquerades as love. It shows up in the subtle pressure to be everything for someone else. It hides in the desire for constant reassurance, the discomfort with silence, the fear of losing attention. But the moment desire becomes a crutch, it loses its magnetism. You stop being a partner and start being a life raft. And eventually, no one wants to be responsible for holding someone else together. That when a man is rooted in himself, he can want deeply without losing himself in that wanting. He can say, I desire you, without it sounding like, I need you to make me whole. He can pursue with clarity, not desperation. He's not seducing out of fear of being alone or using intimacy to avoid facing his own emptiness. He knows who he is, with or without her, and that knowledge is what makes his desire so compelling. It's chosen, not clung to. There is a calm intensity to this kind of desire. It's not loud, it's not performative, it's quiet but unmistakable. It says, I see you, and I want you in my life, not to fix me, not to rescue me, but to meet me where I already stand. That kind of desire is rare, and because it's rare, it feels safe. When a woman senses that your desire for her is not entangled with your emotional survival, she can relax into it. She doesn't feel responsible for managing your insecurity. She doesn't feel trapped by your attention. She feels chosen, not consumed. Dependency often shows up as control. When we fear losing someone, we try to keep them close through subtle manipulation, jealousy, withdrawal, pressure. But this isn't love, it's possession. It's an attempt to secure what can't be secured externally. Real desire doesn't need to control the other person. It doesn't need to know where she is every moment or demand constant access. It trusts. Not blindly, but courageously, because it knows that even if she walks away, it won't destroy your sense of self. Men who are emotionally dependent often chase affection to soothe inner wounds. They fear abandonment, so they cling. They fear rejection, so they perform. But a man who has met himself, who has sat in his own loneliness and survived it, no longer needs to beg for presence. He values connection, but he does not rely on it to feel worthy. This makes him irresistible because he radiates emotional maturity. He is not afraid to be alone, and because of that, he is easier to be with. Desire without dependency also requires boundaries. It means knowing when to give space and when to step in. It means understanding that intimacy is not constant proximity. There is strength in restraint. There is power in waiting, in allowing desire to breathe rather than suffocate. When you are whole on your own, you don't rush the process. You don't demand certainty too soon. You let things unfold without trying to force them. That kind of patience is seductive. It shows self-respect. And self-respect inspires respect. It's easy to mistake passion for codependency. When someone wants you all the time, answers every text instantly, makes you the center of their world, it feels flattering at first, but quickly it becomes heavy. You start to feel like a lifeline instead of a lover. Real passion respects boundaries. It flares and recedes, breathes and returns. It doesn't drown you, it dances with you. And that dance can only happen when both partners are standing on their own emotional feet. The paradox is that the less you need someone to complete you, the more room there is for true intimacy. You're not trying to fill a void, you're creating a space where desire is invited, not demanded, where presence is appreciated, not taken for granted, where love can exist without becoming a transaction. That kind of connection is enduring because it's built on freedom, not obligation. When you desire someone without dependency, you give them the greatest gift: freedom. Freedom to be themselves, freedom to choose you again and again, not out of guilt or fear, but out of true want. And in return, you get something even more valuable: a relationship built on truth, not illusion, on presence, not performance, on mutual strength, not mutual wounds. That is the kind of bond that doesn't just last. It deepens, it matures, it evolves. You don't have to lose your desire to be independent. You just have to make sure that desire is coming from a place of wholeness, not lack. You have to be able to say, I want you, but I will not collapse if you leave. That isn't cold. It's real, it's honest. And it creates the very conditions where passion, trust, and connection can actually thrive.